Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the Baccalaureate ceremony in honor of the graduating class of 2021. Normally, we'd be gathering in person in Irvine Auditorium here on our beautiful campus. Instead, this year, we're gathering virtually. Nonetheless, we still think you're in for a treat. It's going to be a beautiful ceremony. You'll hear from our university president, Dr. Amy Gutman, our provost, Wendell Pritchett, and you'll hear from Professor Justin McDaniel, who has a really special message for you. You're also going to be hearing from a number of your classmates and some of Penn's finest performing arts groups. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Enjoy.
When it was crumbs, scraps, pennies, pats, everything was fine. You treat me like a loaded gun when I ask for what is mine. Always try to dim my light, no matter how bright I shine. But I got my standards that I'm never letting die. Not because of pride, you're not bleeding me dry. Cannot abide. I got my head on a swivel this time. Why would I let you just twist it aside? I catch a fever when the aim and the way I live my life. These are my standards. I ain't gonna never let him die. I ain't gonna never let him die. I ain't gonna never let him die. These are my standards. When I called for help, you didn't pick up your phone. You saw my kingly potential, so you kept me from my throne. The truth is I'm demonized, standing my own ground. But you push me to the deep end, hoping I drown. And I got my beat-em, ba-dum, be I better pay anybody hold you to it. I don't need you. I ain't gonna never let him die. I ain't gonna never let him die. I ain't gonna never let him die. These are my standards. 'Cause I won't let you treat me so unfair. Don't I deserve my God-given share? Whether I've got a dollar or I'm a billionaire, these are my standards. I ain't gonna never let him die because of pride, losing my smile. I got my head on a swivel this time. Why would I let you? I catch a fever with the aim and the way I live my life. These are my standards that I'm never letting die.
We are gathered here today on Lenape-Hoking, a land that once was and still is sacred to the Lenape people. It is here that the people called the Grandfather Tribe and the Peacemakers have lived their lives, spoken their language, and held their ceremonies for thousands of years. In honor of them, let us pause in the Lenape way, remembering where we are and who we are with. to be of one mind and one heart with all our relations, to remember the ancestors and to walk softly and carefully on our Mother Earth, and to give thanks to our Creator. With these thoughts, all right actions follow. Ahol.
Baccalaureate is an ancient tradition. It links us to centuries of university graduates, stretching back all the way to medieval Oxford. To our parents, family, friends, and most of all to the amazing class of 2021, welcome to this virtual Penn Baccalaureate. Wherever you are, today we join as one beloved community to celebrate the beautiful friendships formed, family bonds cherished, and the great successes of our incredible graduates. We also reflect on and honor the sacrifices shouldered by so many people in so many ways. In Jewish teachings, my faith, we hold a timeless value, tikkun olam. By saving one life, we save the world. Never underestimate the value of your work to help even one person. Your efforts multiply, and together we renew the world. I see our highest values thriving in this class. In the steps you have taken to defeat a pandemic and combat racial injustice, in the milestones and pleasures you have forgone, and in the efforts and care of your wonderful families. I am grateful to all our student performers and leaders for making this event so very special for the class of 2021. Thanks also to Chaz and his team. Most of all, I am deeply proud of all of you, our newest graduates. Our celebrating you is also a celebration of better days to come. Thanks to your grit and resilience, you have shown this time and time again. Be very proud of your role in that, as I am so very proud of you and what you have achieved. Congratulations and enjoy.
I will now read a passage from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, one of the foremost Jewish philosophers and theologians of the 20th century. After reading this passage, I will recite the Shehechianu blessing, which is traditionally recited upon doing something for the first time, or for the first time this year, such as attending this baccalaureate ceremony. Rabbi Heschel writes, "Remember that there is a meaning beyond absurdity, that every little deed counts, that every word has power, and that we can do, everyone, our share to redeem the world despite all of the absurdities and all of the frustration and all of the disappointments. And above all, remember that the meaning of life is to live life as if it were a work of art. You're not a machine. When you are young, start working on this great work of art called your own existence. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, our God, creator of time and space, who has supported us, protected us, and brought us to this moment."
I'll begin with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. "It is unwise to be too sure of one's own wisdom. It is healthy to be reminded that the strongest might weaken and the wisest might err. Thus, rather than on ourselves, let us focus on change. We need to be the change we wish to see in the world." I'll now move on to a selection from the Isha Upanishad. "The spirit, without moving, is swifter than the mind. The senses cannot reach him. He is ever beyond them. Standing still, he overtakes those who run. To the ocean of his being, the spirit of life leads the streams of action. He moves and moves not. He is far and he is near. He is within all and he is outside all. Who sees all beings in his own self and in his own self in all beings loses all fear. When a sage sees this great unity and his self has become all beings, what delusion and what sorrow can ever come near him? The Spirit filled all with his radiance. He is incorporeal and invulnerable, pure and untouched by evil. He is the supreme seer and thinker, immanent and transcendent. Into deep darkness fall those who follow action. Into deeper darkness fall those who follow knowledge. He who knows both knowledge and action, with action overcomes death, and with knowledge reaches immortality. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Ali, and for Baccalaureate 2021, I wanted to share a few verses of the Quran and some lines of poetry by the poet Rumi with you. First, the verses of the Quran. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Praise be to God, cherisher of the worlds, the compassionate, the merciful, master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and your aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those whom you have favored, not of those who have incurred your wrath, or those who have gone astray. And a few lines of poetry from the poet Rumi. What the material world values does not shine the same in the truth of the soul. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
To introduce the Beatitudes, we have a quote from St. Teresa of Avila. It is not a matter of thinking much, but of loving much. So do whatever most kindles loving you. The Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Welcome, graduates. As Provost, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Justin McDaniel, our baccalaureate speaker this afternoon, which I'll do in a moment. But first, congratulations, you made it. This has been a year, okay, 14 months, but who's counting? Unlike any other, and unlike what anyone could have predicted. But one could easily say the same thing about college generally. Predictions are rarely accurate. Each of your experiences was unique, and there was always some new challenge to overcome. This year, one experience we've shared is the necessity of adaptation. I'd argue that adaptation and flexibility, along with a good dose of creativity, are virtues that will support your success in any future endeavor. Yet, as Justin McDaniel, a Buddhism scholar, might remind us, there are two Buddhist virtues that arguably transcend even those and have special relevance at this moment: wisdom and compassion. When faced with any challenge, I hope these virtues will continue to guide you. In 2019, Professor McDaniel was named one of the 10 most innovative professors in America by the Chronicle of Higher Education. Widely considered one of the nation's foremost experts in Buddhist studies and Southeast Asian history, his interests range widely, from Sanskrit literature to material culture to rituals. He's taught many classes in many subjects, but is perhaps best known for one specific course at Penn. His 7-hour, once per week existential despair class gives students, in the words of the DP, a break from the hustle and bustle of Penn. Some of you may know it. No phones, no prerequisites, no homework, and no exams. Before Penn, for many years, Justin lived in South and Southeast Asia as a researcher, translator, archivist, amulet collector, volunteer, and perhaps not surprisingly, Buddhist monk. He returned to the States in 2003 and received his doctorate in Sanskrit and Indian studies from Harvard. As he once noted, half of life is dealing with existential problems: the death of a parent, depression, dealing with a relationship that is on the skids. A traditional education doesn't cover how to reckon with these issues. At this unique moment of reflection and celebration, that certainly sounds like both wisdom and compassion to me. And now, the Edmund J. and Louise W. Kahn Endowed Professor of the Humanities, Justin McDaniel.
Hello. 25 years ago, I was in your seat. I had recently graduated, and I was struggling with what I wanted to do with my life. I'd unapologetically studied classics and history in college because, frankly, I enjoyed them, and I was good at them. But I also realized that I probably couldn't save the world with Latin. So I asked my dad for advice on what to do next. We were in a bar. My dad always felt more comfortable in bars. I don't really know why I asked him. He had never gotten a higher education of any sort. He bounced around, he tried new things. He seemed to be pretty mediocre at most things. However, he was the happiest person I knew. And I thought, well, since most of the supposedly successful people I knew seemed sad, why not ask a happy one? I also admired my dad because he had this way of making everyone around him feel like they mattered. He was disarming. He had these huge hands that comforted shoulders more than formed fists. And he said these words to me: Justin, I'm 52 years old, and I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And I don't ever have to decide, because then I'll have to be a grown-up. And who the hell would ever want to be a grown-up? That was the type of advice my dad gave me growing up. And it was the type of gift he gave me growing up. The greatest gift a parent could ever give a child. The gift of no expectations. He didn't care if I was successful, graduated, went to certain schools, or knew certain people. He didn't even care if I found myself, my calling, my vocation, my passion. He didn't believe in any of that junk. He believed in being present with people, listening to them, meeting them where they were, and allowing them to express that complexity of their many selves. I didn't have to live up to anything. That is the best gift I could give you, is the one I was given. I could pretty much end the graduation speech here. I think that says enough. But I was told to fill 5 minutes. So I'll tell you a little bit more. My dad died 6 weeks ago. from COVID. 9 days before he died, I sat in that hospital, day after day, slowly watching him die, and I could do nothing about it. I have a PhD from a fancy school. I read and speak multiple languages. I've written award-winning books. I've taught thousands of students. None of it mattered. I couldn't increase his blood gas saturation, couldn't regulate his heartbeat. I couldn't even tell him goodbye because he was in a coma and was experiencing cascading organ failure. It was actually strangely liberating being on that corner behind goggles and a double mask and a purple plastic gown, where I knew none of the words. No one expected me to be an expert at anything. I give lectures and I write for a living at an Ivy League school, but all I could do was sit there in silence. I would watch this beautiful choreography every day, this choreography of empathy and duty, science and softness that the nurses displayed in caring for a man that they knew wouldn't make it. They gave me hope day after day, even when we all knew there wasn't any. They had such a bad year, watching so many people die. And what made that year even worse is that no one could express their sorrow, because to do so would be to almost weaponize their pain. I felt particularly self-indulgent expressing my pain. My dad's rapidly worsening condition wasn't a tragedy, it was a statistic. The rest of the planet was suffering more. I was sitting in a perfectly well-equipped medical center. I had a job that I could take a few days off from. And being a white guy, I was waved in by security and given respect just because of the color of my skin and my gender. It was easy on me. So I just sat there, not knowing what to do, day after day, suffering from what the famous writer Nabokov called referential mania. One of Nabokov's stories is about parents whose son is in asylum. He is suffering from this referential mania. He sees irrational connections between events, objects, and people. He creates meaning where there is none. His parents travel to see him. They travel across the city. They ride a bus. They wait at stops. They climb steps to the hospital. They bring in a gift of 12 types of jam. They return to their lonely apartment after the visit. They eat fish. They receive 2 phone calls, both wrong numbers. And the story ends with no real events. Nabokov kind of messed with his readers. He titled the story Signs and Symbols. And he forced his reader to try to decipher the meaning of the jars of jam and the phone calls. The reader is forced to think about the steps of the apartment, the color of the mother's stockings, and ask themselves, what does it all mean? Nabokov makes the reader feel just what the parents did, hopeless and grasping for signs, for something that will end their son's pain, and in turn their own. The couple were trying to make meaning out of meaninglessness. And that's exactly what I was doing in the hospital, trying to make meaning out of random death. Watching somebody die can give you a serious case of referential mania. Indeed, I wonder if COVID has forced the planet into the shared condition. Apophenia, or the condition of seeing abnormal meaningfulness or imagining connections between things, characterized Nabokov's life, actually. He was an expert in lepidoptery, which is the study of butterflies. He was also a chess strategist. He studied things that had a process but had no meaning. Chess games always end the same way. Someone kills the king. It's this process of getting there that matters. The study of butterflies is the study of meaningless cycles. Pretty, yes, but to what end? No great medicines come from butterflies. They're no great source of protein. Even their flight really goes nowhere. They're polymorphic and they strive by mimicry. For gosh sakes, we can't even know what to call them. We can't even decide what to call a butterfly. Where in most Indo-European languages, the names for insects are etymologically similar. But butterflies are this rare example of an insect whose name is radically different in each language. Mariposa, farfalla, papillon, schmetterling, Sommerflugel, babachka. After 9 days, we turned off the life support for my father. And anyone who was lucky enough to love someone knows that what that means is turning off your own life support. My dear mother, I met my dad on a blind date in 1966 when she was visiting Ireland looking for work. was permitted to spend the last 2 hours with him. My mom whispered to him for a long time. And when it was time, she rested her head on his chest. Neither of us knew what to expect. Would he shudder at the end? Would there be a death rattle? Would we feel a cold presence in the room? None of that happened. It just ended. It all seemed so meaningless. This tiny moment between life and death, like the senseless momentary season of a butterfly. My father taught me that life isn't about finding the perfect career, your true calling, your passion, your soulmate. It's not about finding the meaning of life. It's about making meaning, about creating meaning out of the precious life you have, about deeply appreciating the meaning-making process of those struggling around you, co-creating a more hopeful and kinder world with others. Nothing might matter in this cold, dark universe, but we have this rare chance every day to make others feel like they matter, to make them feel, even if just for one moment, their life has meaning, their life meaning to us. So I expect nothing of you after you graduate. I don't expect you that you'll find your passion or your vocation or your calling. I don't expect you'll find your special voice or even your elusive and ever-adapting self. I simply ask you to be kind, to remind others that they matter, not to the universe, but to you at that moment. You all certainly matter to me, and you will always have a family here at Penn. 1 week after my father's death, I went to visit my mother, and we went back to the hospital to pick up the last of his belongings. The nurses had put his wedding ring in a urine sample jar to keep it safe. And next to the nurses' station were 2 clear plastic bags with my dad's name on them, filled with some medication that he would never need again, underwear, and 1 shirt. My mom and I picked up the bags, and we drove to Red Lobster for lunch. My mom had fish and chips. I had the combo special. We didn't talk much. What I noticed is that she kept tearing up. Not for my dad, but for his family that she saw in the restaurant, not too far from us. This restaurant, this table in the corner, and there was a family with a little girl who had cerebral palsy. She was in a wheelchair, and her siblings doted over her, making sure she could slowly spoon food into her quivering mouth. These children formed this beautiful pattern of care. And my mom whispered, in her still quite noticeable Irish brogue, "Some families really have it tough." Thank you.
Shadows grow long on the campus. Twilight has come again. Warm copper rays streak the golden haze as peace settles down on Penn. And soft and low in the pale afterglow, the voices of students ring with the songs and cheers of their fair college years, the songs they love to sing. Post Jucundam Juventutem, we Wataka
8 years ago, I was again seated at a Penn Baccalaureate ceremony, celebrating my brother's commencement. The lights were dimmed in Irvine Auditorium, the professors and students processed onto stage, and hundreds of family, friends, and underclassmen were seated in the audience. This year surely looks different. You can tell by the fact that we aren't in Irvine, but in my bedroom, and that I'm not processing in a gown, but instead potentially wearing PJ bottoms under this dress, and that the audience, all of you, are tuning in from all over the world. Just like so many things this year, this speech will also be a little bit different. You'll be hearing from me, but you'll also be hearing from student leaders across campus. We got through this year together. Community really took on new meaning. And so it's only fitting that this speech reflects that.
This past year, we experienced loss on a personal, communal, and global scale.
We grieved over the continued injustices in our country, the loss of loved ones to COVID-19, and the separation from our loved ones.
We also experienced the daily struggles of operating Zoom meetings, the discomfort of converting our bedrooms into office spaces,
and having calls interrupted by our family or pets. It's been remarkably difficult.
As seniors, we have mourned the loss of many lasts, our heyday on College Green, and commencement surrounded by family.
At some point, finding the silver linings became exhausting. Even Professor Angela Duckworth would agree that we have enough grit to last us a lifetime.
Our class chose to respond to the devastation by being more empathetic, innovative, giving, forgiving, and resilient. This response is what makes this class, the class of 2021, so special.
I know. Every commencement speaker preaches the same proclamations using words and phrases like historic and legendary and best class ever. But we truly are, and I'm about to explain why.
We aren't historic for being the first class in a centennial to live through a pandemic, and we aren't legendary for being the first to create a tradition uniquely for sophomores with Unite.
Nor are we the best for being the first to live in the renovated Hill College house.
That last one, though, honestly might be true. Having AC was a pretty big gesture by the university.
We're unique for how we've shown up.
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 I'm talking about senior leaders like my roommate who created a grassroots political organization and contributed to the largest voter turnout in U.S. history. The seniors in the performing arts who led virtual rehearsals. Imagine singing or dancing over Zoom to ensure the continuity of their groups. Athletes who continued to train tirelessly and broke school records when they finally had permission to race. And faith leaders who organized events for Ramadan, Rosh Hashanah, and Easter, and fostered community despite restrictions. This is resilience, grit. It's about pushing the boundaries and continuously getting up, trying again, and training harder, despite the world telling you not to. That's what this year has been all about. Beyond resilient, this class is also selfless. Leadership is often a thankless job, but during COVID-19, that became even more prominent. No one saw the 100 of event proposals or ideas that were rejected before the final product. No one saw the behind the scenes of testing Zooms to ensure that rehearsals ran properly. No one knows how many times we had to emotionally stay strong for our communities despite being so tired inside. Leadership is often thankless work, but this year, seniors didn't even get the classic validation they usually do.
Standing on stage for the final curtain call.
Engaging with students at events.
Or standing at a podium to receive a medal.
It's selfless. It's doing for others while knowing you won't get it yourself. And that's why this class is so inspiring. Every senior leader in some capacity, formally or informally, within Penn or beyond, not only adapted to changes, but surpassed them. In a year when the expectation was to merely survive, we did so much more than that. There's so much work that has been done this year by this class. and it may never get recognized. But the purpose of this speech is for all of you to know that Penn wouldn't continue to be the place it is if you didn't do the hard and selfless work of passing down the traditions in this alternate reality. I'm grateful to have led such a gritty and selfless class. I've learned so much from each of you over our last 4 years. Of course, at our high points, but more so at the low ones.
Our true character has shown this year in how we responded and rose to the occasion, despite how difficult it was on certain days, weeks, and even months.
I know that whatever comes for us next, whatever difficulties we face, any tribulations that come our way, that we will get through it, because there will never be a test as difficult as this one. And we'll continue to meet those challenges with the same resilience and selflessness that we greeted this year with and inspired others as we go.
Next year, the world will become our classroom. We have classmates that will be going as far as Japan to complete their military service,
and as close as Philly to pursue their health tech startup. But regardless of where we are, we will always have this moment, this place, and this time that will connect us to one another.
We'd be remiss if we ended this speech without recognizing the very people who gave and instilled these traits in us, our families, professors, and mentors. They're the ones who got us here today. And I want to take a moment to thank you all. Being in those roles is the most thankless job. And just as much as today is a celebration of us, it's also a celebration of all of you. Thank you for teaching us how to lead and for continuously guiding us when we lost direction. To Mom, Dad, John, and V, I love you. And I couldn't have done any of this without your love and support.
Thank you to my mom, my great-grandmother, and all the phenomenal people I've met over the past 4 years who have pushed me to embrace my power, strength, and resilience.
To my community on campus, 234, Shabbatones, and the OCP. You all are the best. To Mom, Dad, Ben, and Josh, thanks for pushing me to strive for more every single day.
To my parents, my family, my friends, thank you for being the very best. I'm so grateful for all of you.
I'd like to thank God, Penn football, and my family for helping provide such an amazing opportunity at Penn. I love you all, and I couldn't have done it without you.
To my parents, my boyfriend, family, teachers, mentors, professors, and friends, thank you for being my support system and cheering me on.
To the class of 2021, thank you for the most incredible 4 years. I love each and every one of you. Yes, all 2,583 of you from the bottom of my heart. I want you all to know that I'm so thankful for the late nights in VP and Allegros, for the endless hellos on Locust, and for the spontaneous adventures around Center City. You turned this campus into a home, and I can't wait for the next time we're all together again. Sending you all so many hugs and distance elbow bumps. I love you, and congratulations.
To be honest, at times over this last year, for me, the gift of technology brought about exhaustion. Yet today it has brought me gratitude. I'm thankful that it's allowed us to connect with one another, over distance wherever you are, and over time, whenever you may be watching this. I'm grateful for President Gutman, Provost Pritchett, Lizzie, and all the speakers, readers, and artists who took the time to be a part of this year's baccalaureate ceremony. Thank you especially, Professor McDaniel, for speaking from your heart to our hearts with words that I won't soon forget. I'm thankful for the team at Arsenal Media Works, Perelman Quad, the President's, Provost, and University Secretary's offices, the Office of Student Affairs, Platt Performing Arts, and my team in the chaplain's office, especially Patty, Steve, and Sana, who gave so much of their time in the crafting of this event. You know, our Muslim sisters and brothers just finished observing Ramadan, and these last few days of the school year are marked by the holiday of Shavuot, 2 ancient and sacred legacies of counting, from crescent moon to crescent moon, and 7 weeks after Passover. So much of this year has been about counting and waiting and enduring days where time seemed to speed up, and others where time seemed to drag on very slowly. Graduates, may you take your time. May you walk slow enough to notice the beauty of the world all around you. May you take notice of each and every day, taking none for granted. Appreciate the time you have with loved ones, and may you always know that we appreciated the time we've had with you. Go with our blessing. Amen.